India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and we've been tracking Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Mauritius. It's a two-day state visit where he'll be participating in Mauritius' 57th National Day. But apart from that, a lot of significant talks will be held between the top leaderships of the two countries, the one that Prime Minister Modi is visiting. And India and Mauritius have had long-standing relations. One of the first, it is in fact the first African nation that India has had any sort of a free trade pact with. And to talk about it all, we have former senior diplomat Prabhu now joining us. Good afternoon to you, Ambassador Prabhu. What do you make of how India and Mauritius have conducted their relationship so far, in the sense that we've had Prime Minister Modi getting an unprecedented reception? Almost the entire cabinet and a lot more people were there to receive him when he landed in Port Louis today.
Well, Gautam, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. You know, there is no doubt that the relationship between Mauritius and India has been very close. And the objective of Prime Minister Modi's visit is to further strengthen the bilateral relations between the two countries, take the strategic partnership to new heights, as well as make India's presence in the Indian Ocean more effective. As you mentioned during your earlier remarks, Prime Minister Modi will attend the National Day celebrations of Mauritius as a chief guest. This is a very, very important honor which is being bestowed on our Prime Minister as well as on India. And as you also mentioned, a contingent of the Indian Navy Defence Forces along with an Indian Navy ship will be taking part in the celebrations. Now, Prime Minister Modi will be visiting Mauritius for the first time after 2015. And it is expected that the current visit will strengthen cooperation in various areas. Now, first of all, there is the importance being attached to strengthening the bilateral relations. You know, Mauritius is called mini India because its culture, tradition, and population are of Indian origin. We are connected by shared values and deep cultural ties. And Prime Minister Modi's visit will further strengthen the foundation of our friendship. Many new projects may be initiated during this visit, and the attempt will be to further strengthen trade between India and Mauritius, as also strengthen the investment opportunities. Let me mention that in the financial year 23-24, Mauritius ranked second as the investment route to India, just after Singapore. And from the figures available, I understand that 25% of the foreign direct investment which came to India came via the Mauritius route. So attempts will naturally be made to explore how cooperation in this regard can be strengthened. Of course, India is investing in infrastructure development, digital technology, health services in Mauritius. And these will further strengthen the relations between the two countries. Now, at the same time, this visit of Prime Minister Modi is not limited only to bilateral relations, but it is an important part of India's long-term strategy in the Indian Ocean. I think that the results of this visit will help in further strengthening India's global standing in the times to come. Let me mention that Mauritius is an important country located in the Indian Ocean, and its maritime border is strategically very important for India, particularly in view of China's growing influence. So India wants to strengthen its presence in the Indian Ocean region, and during Prime Minister Modi's visit, we can see how avenues will be explored in regard to strengthening security and naval cooperation. Now, in this context, let me mention that a very important aspect relates to the Chagos Islands. The Chagos Islands belong to Mauritius. Mauritius has sovereignty. It was earlier under the French, then passed on to the British. And last October, there was a deal signed between Mauritius and UK.
Yes.
Under the previous government of Mauritius. And That was the government of Mr. Jagannath. And in terms of that agreement, Mauritius gave to UK sovereignty over the Diego Garcia Island, which is the largest island in the Chagos Islands, for 99 years. And on Diego Garcia, as we all know, the United States has a very important base, a naval base, an air base, a military base. And it operates the military facilities together with the UK. Now, the agreement was signed in October, and within a few weeks, there was a change of government. The government of Mr. Praveen Jagannath lost very badly, and the new government of Mr. Ramgoolam came in. And it is felt that Mr. Ramgoolam is close to China, but he has said that he will not be allowing the Chagos Islands to be developed as a base by the Chinese. You know, nonetheless, there are questions which still remain, and there are anxieties, particularly because of the change in government and the fact that the new government has said that it wants to relook at all aspects of the agreement that was signed with the UK, giving sovereignty over Diego Garcia, or control over Diego Garcia, to the British and American for 99 years. Now, there are some anxieties, naturally, as to what the Chinese will now be up to. And the visit of our Prime Minister is very, very important in terms of having a free and frank discussion with the Mauritian government as to how our security interests and our maritime interests converge so much, and we have to work together. I think by and large, Mauritius has been extremely understanding as regards India's concerns, but nonetheless, it's very important to have the dialogue in this overall broad context.
And how can India ensure that our maritime security is further strengthened in cooperation with the Mauritians there? Because the Indian Ocean is becoming a playground for a tussle almost between great powers.
Certainly, you're absolutely right. The Indian Ocean is the theater of conflict and confrontation between the big powers. On the one hand, you have Chinese expansionism, which is territorial expansionism as well as economic in nature. And on the other side, you have the Western powers, led, of course, by the United States of America. But there are a whole host of countries who are very concerned about dangers from Chinese expansionism. And these include, of course, Japan, Australia, the countries of the Indian Ocean Rim, the ASEAN countries, and of course India, because Chinese expansionism has been hurting our interests, both in the regional and the geopolitical context. Now, we have, therefore, an interest in ensuring that the confrontation between the bigger powers is kept at bay, and at the same time that the Indian Ocean region remains free of conflict. So in this particular context, because of the important geopolitical location of the Chagos Islands and the fact that Diego Garcia there was leased out by the previous Mauritian government to UK and in turn to the United States for maintaining a military base there, and questions are now arising as to whether the new Mauritian government wants to review that earlier agreement and say that it was signed by a government which was voted out of power very, very soon after it signed that. These are questions which naturally are raising a lot of interest and concern amongst geopolitical analysts. And I think the government of India is acutely aware of the challenges of the situation, and the visit of the Prime Minister has to be seen in this context, how to work together with Mauritius in overcoming the geopolitical challenges which arise continually in the Indian Ocean region.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see how things unfold over the course of today and tomorrow. Thank you for joining us for the time being, Ambassador Prabhu Dayal.